Hey, what's up, guys? So, I am back with another Batman Arkham Knight video, and this video here is actually, well, I guess you could call it like a reboot, so to speak, because I already started a series, and it's basically like mastery development of the game, which I think this game, probably a lot of people within the community would agree, is a masterpiece, nothing short, and the reason why is that it brings together so many elements of gaming that I would say you would want, which is like good graphics, good gameplay, diverse gameplay mechanics, diverse gameplay systems, the storyline, which ties in with the Arkham trilogy, and just a I don't know if you guys realize this, but the cast of the Batman animated series, which is a big influence in my basically my appreciation and development of this game. So what it comes down to is basically I've been doing a lot, like I've been following the game since they came out, and Arkham Asylum, like I'll tell you right now, like I played the demo before the release of Arkham Asylum, and I just immediately fell in love with the combat because I've come from like Batman Begins had a game which had like its combat, and then it had like a stealth system. So that was a like just keep in mind it was like a pioneer, and then there was a Batman game for the GameCube which graphically looked really good. But as you guys can see from this one here, I don't know if like you're paying attention to how I like to do my combat sequences. It's something that I like to, and this is actually a really good fight. So the ability to be able to develop your combat falls into like a few categories. Like you wanna play as as much realism as possible to get the most stylish gameplay out of it. But then there's also the Predator aspect to the game, which is its own experimentation, and that's something right now that we segue into the equipment tech. I wanted to in this particular moment of the story early on, there's the explosive gel. So I'm going to go with the explosive gel. I mean, the game gives you everything, and I'm actually under leveled because in this playthrough, as you can see, I'm barely starting. I have hardly anything unlocked. This is the hardest difficulty. I did not take the time to do some of the early on, like the when you get the new suit, some of the challenges to get extra Wayne tech. There's a lot of things I think I could have done before reaching this point in the story to have more Wayne tech upgrades available, so that I could be a little bit more of a well-rounded, in my gameplay. But I didn't do that, but I did prioritize Predator because, respectfully, as you guys saw, was like a mastery of the combat, respectfully, because I've been working on the combat extensively, and then I also use a zoom on the PlayStation 5, so that gives you a little bit more attention to detail when you're doing these fights. So you want to do basically strings of martial arts attacks that are almost accurate to the point where you're not breaking your own camera and it's flowing seamlessly, and the combat feels realistic, it feels fluid, it feels like really like you're in a cinematic film. And that's one of the things about this game, that it allows you to do that. I haven't revisited the old games to see just how much of that you can have in all of them, but respectfully, in Arkham Knight, from the moment you play this one, you'll take a look at the animations, the graphics, and how everything ties in, the sounds, and the combat as a whole it's very, very, like, it's excellent. Now, over time playing, I did start to develop more of especially once I improved as a player in general. There's a lot of aspects to the Predator that you can apply once you apply a simple effect, which is the sound mechanics. And again, the game is lenient on this. It's not going to, like, I remember back in the older games, like a game like Splinter Cell, if you did anything that made noise, you're talking about stealth games here, and if you play like the classic Splinter Cell games, that aspect of realism, okay, well, that's gonna make sense. Or if the opponents can hear you, in this case, that's something that you want to mind. So going in, I did prioritize the gel. I felt I was going to need it. This is actually one of my first gameplays that's very analytical for Predator within the story, not outside. So I wanted to break this one down before we go into any other concepts. I want to break down this whole gameplay here because I'm not going to break that rule. So I'm not going to use the grapnel boost or anything that is, you know, deploying like a loud enough sound mechanic that's going to affect. So that is the first guard right there. He's taken out. Trying to see if the explosive gel would be, and I like the explosive gel. I think that in future game iterations, if they add like an electric shock aspect to the explosive gel, it might even be a little bit more satisfying, because the explosion, it's a little bit over the top in the sense that it could be like a mine, which, you know, it's very dangerous, it's lethal, but an electric shock would be definitely much more incapacitating. So like explosive gel, electric shock, or like an explosive, an electric mine, you know, an electric mine that Batman can deploy, which would be like another way that he could also detonate, or they can trip it, and then that would result in, you know, incapacitating one of the soldiers. But that's not happening here. So in the meantime, so as you can see, I still haven't broken, like I'm not, you know, breaking glass and using my grapnel. So this guy's gonna go out, and this is good because, you know, they hear it. That's definitely a good mechanic. The fact that the explosion sets off, everybody's on alert now. So as we get ready to, basically, I'm just scanning around. You see, this room it looks small because it's like closed off, but it's actually really, really big. This whole area. So, you know, there's not that many soldiers here, but I am able to, you know, do something as loud as like the explosive gel. I don't have to worry about the whole swarm coming in. So I take this soldier out, and then this soldier is going back for, I believe, another canister. So, you know, again, still, and you don't want to be like, you want to be diverse as well. You want to be able to use more equipment. So in this case, I think I do use the corner takedown. There it is. So yeah, I wanted to do the equip draw, but it didn't let me in that case. And right now, like the equip draw, I do actually use the grapnel one time here. So I jumped out. Why though? Because look how huge this room is. And because the walls block some echo, respectfully, you can argue that they can't hear from that far away with that many things blocking the echo. So, but I don't use it again because they're just right below me, right to the right here. So I use the glide because it's not making any noise, which again also fits that like intense stealth sequences, which Batman Begins actually probably did the best out of all the games, out of all the films. So let's see how I approach this. Alright, so I did take him out with the Batarang. If I would have upgraded the Batarang's like duration, that would have been better, because I wouldn't have been spotted here. Because I was spotted. That guy already got up, see? So I didn't get shot, which is great because this is my first playthrough. And even if you are seen, but you don't take damage, that's the realism aspect, because respectfully, in no situation, Batman would be getting shot. Even, I mean, yeah, you have the armor, but it's usually reserved to like big set piece moments if you actually get shot. Everything else is done with like tactical skills. So you take him here. There you go. Alright. Now it's good that I didn't hit the sentry because he's on the way back here, so I would have been trapped into that. I was gonna go for a corner. Luckily the sentry's just not seeing, it's out of range. So yeah, this is good that I didn't go for it because he would have seen me there. I believe. Yeah, he's not even. I think he was on alert, but because he had the canister, he's just like, okay, I have this canister, I have to prioritize it. I think at this point, Scarecrow is also telling him, like, just leave them and prioritize the canisters. I'm trying to see how I'm going to get up there, because I still don't want to make loud sounds, because that guy's close enough, I would say. Still, nothing is available to me, so this is one thing that I said, okay, well, you know, use as much of your equipment as possible, and then the upgrades are amazing because that helps a lot. So this is a good opportunity to use the smoke, and then arguably you'll see right now. So I hit the smoke, so I ran in. He's facing the other way, so take him out by the light. And I figured that the smoke was still, you know, fairly strong. The soldier was definitely discombobulated, even if he was looking in the direction of the grapnel. And I take him out in the air. I've been known to do that. So there's a lot of things that you would cover there, guys. But essentially, I have gone over a few things. I wanted to let you guys... Okay, so the game is... The traversal mechanics, everything about the game is very good. And one thing that I wanted to share with you guys right now that we're here is the Batmobile. I do like the aspect of the Batmobile as your main traversal when you're outside complexes, outside buildings. Because it doesn't really apply as much realism to basically flying around everywhere and grappling everywhere. In the case of like let's say a live action, like an open world Batman game that is populated at the maximum peak of realism, like almost like a Grand Theft Auto game, right? You can't be driving the Batmobile in public because it's it draws attention. So the Batmobile really is like it's a machine that, you know, Batman has access to these interesting like routes within the city, and the car usually stays like in an unpopulated area in the case that Batman has to make a quick escape, and then he deploys it. Or he has to do a pursuit and then he deploys it. So yeah, he is using mostly, like, it's very tactical. He's like, it's very, very tactical. There's an objective in a building, and there are many means of you know, getting yourself there. Respectfully, you could even get yourself there as Bruce Wayne and then have their equipment to, you know, to put on in a certain way. Like a lot of times the Batsuit is in the limousine as you're approaching the situation. If it's nighttime, yeah, the car goes through these back routes parked, and then there is some traversal, you know, over the rooftops, which is about grappling and about like knowing the layout of the environments, but you know, like precise, you know, points of entry. But that's just neither here nor there. One way that I do like to use the main mechanics of the Batmobile is off the pursuit mode, in tank mode, in a slower pace, because again, pursuit mode is arguably more about high-speed scenarios, and you're not in a high-speed scenario in this game, mind you. Most of the time throughout this, I mean, when you are, it's good to have that mechanic, like in chases and stuff like that, but for the most part, you're strategically going about taking out these, you know, armored militia drones, and also meeting your objectives of stopping Scarecrow's plan and stopping the other villains around Gotham City at what they're doing. So it's, you know, as the main traversal, because you're gonna have to do all this stuff. You're gonna have to do the objectives. You're gonna have to do, you know, the most, like, you know, this is why I would just go in and just traverse in tank mode. It's easier to navigate as well. If you think that, like, okay, if I don't, you know, it's harder to control at a faster pace. Like, traversal in games has been one of those things where I have applied a lot of my, you know, interest in doing it, because that's when you're really on it for long periods of time. And this game is pretty long. You know, I don't think the story is, it's a long game. With all the side, to this day, I haven't even finished all the side content. And I just done multiple playthroughs because, you know, I like to practice the combat, I like to practice the Predator, I like the environment, I like the graphics, I like the story, you know. So I just make multiple playthroughs every time making developments on my gameplay. And like I said, some of the biggest developments on my gameplay have been my new Predator, you know, basically like rules, you would say, my combat. With the zoom, that's a big deal. And then I don't think that, other than the zoom, nothing else would really help you to be a little bit more precise with your strikes. So that's just one thing about the combat itself. You know, and my traversal. Yeah, so the way I would traverse the environments, mostly in the Batmobile. I mean, I figured it's, if you have an objective that's on a rooftop, you can grapple to specific point, or you can grapnel cancel to get into flight to fly up to that point as well. You know, you're just trying to be as precise as possible, and then when you're in the encounter, which is either predator or combat, you're going to be as tactical, you know, realism as possible to get a very stylish gameplay going. So you guys, you know, basically are able to see how I approach the game. And there's some things that I wish were in the game a little bit more. Like, I do understand the need to be quick at the grapnel, but I would also appreciate the same way you can draw the bat claw and hold it, and the batarang and hold it. Basically, all the gadgets you can draw them and hold it, and then aim and then fire. I would appreciate a mechanic of the grapnel to have that. I don't know how it would work in the game, because it would definitely slow down the pacing of the game if you had to aim and then well, let's say in predator mode, let's say that in predator mode the game, yeah, I mean, it just, like, if you're in a scenario where you have to run and shoot the grapnel to get to a point of interest, I would want to be able to do that. Can you run and aim at the same time? I don't know how that mechanic would work, but just regardless, just being able to draw and aim would be a great way. It definitely would add another layer of realism to your gameplay mechanics as a whole. But regardless, with what we have, you could slow it down. I mean, you know, long grapple points, just hold to the ledge, and then short grapple points, it's realistic that he could just jump on up with, you know, with the athleticism that he has. But you know, long grapple, and then obviously horrors, like very angular grapple points don't really look as realistic. You know, literally where you shoot like almost like horizontally, and the grapnel like flies you to the right side. It's just that's very, very like difficult to manage. Like unless you were like sliding on the ground, you know, something like that. But for the most part, no. So this is the last encounter here. Predator as well. Like this gameplay today, this video right here is a lot about Predator, because since I made my developments, I haven't actually had a chance to work on it as much, you know, so it's a good chance to take that now. And as you guys see, this is there's a lot of Predator encounters in this environment, because just outside of Oracle's Tower, the remote bat cave is with the bat computer is really, you know, a lot of times they guard it because they know that this is where Barbara is at this point. They did do that, so we could approach it in a bunch of different ways here. And I think I actually like mess up a little bit because I think that I didn't have the layout too well. I thought some of these doors were supposed to be open. Maybe they are open in later game. But for the most part, I did mess up, so I did, you know, have to use the grapnel to get out of here. And then once I do, I start from an outside position, which I don't really like, because that outside position kind of like, it doesn't make any sense that they can't see you. You're too low, it's too out in the open, you're in their peripheral vision. But, you know, in a future iteration of this, you know, basically in a future scenario coming here, I would want to approach this whole Predator sequence from a more realistic, you know, basically, I guess in like a more realistic, you know, area of approach. But for the purposes of, I had to do it, you know, this way. Other than that, the introduction to this Predator sequence being, you know, not as optimal, the rest of it was pretty good. I would say the rest of it was pretty good. You could, you know, if you pay attention to how, like, especially, you know, you take out, I like to take out the medics, because the medic will almost immediately, see, this is what I'm talking about, almost immediately just go and revive. See that sound right there? I didn't really like it. I know it's outside and I think it's raining, or regardless, but, you know, these guys were a little too close for comfort, and I don't like this railing here at all. You know, maybe the guy below me, but that guy just further beyond, there's no way. And then that guy over there by the stairs, you know, again, like, right below you is understandable, but, you know, once they got distance on you, the peripheral vision is pretty large, so I don't like this area of approach at all. But, you know, so be it. And then later, this is like getting really advanced into the Predator. But every other mechanic that I you know have been deploying, primarily with sound mechanics, and then obviously not grappling in an unrealistic, you know, methodology, you know, worked out. I used a lot of ladders. Okay, so that's good timing. So I do use the ladder here, and then get the medic first. And it's good that, I've been using a lot more of the explosive gel, because the explosive gel is actually something you'll forget about. You forget about just how useful it is. So you're basically as tactical as possible. You're doing it as quickly as possible. You're completing and obviously not taking any damage. So even if you are spotted, but you're not taking any damage, that's important. Then you're as tactical as possible. You're as precise as possible with everything you do, and then you're not breaking the rules, so that the combat's definitely feels a lot more immersive. So there you have this soldier right here. And I mean, there's a lot to talk about, guys. Like, I'm definitely going to go in and do more videos, at least for right now, because I am reading, I am doing Batman lore right now, and I am reading, I believe his name, the author's name is John Jackson Miller, which is John Jackson Miller, which he's an author of a lot of Star Wars and Star Trek books, and he just did, I think it's supposed to take events after the Batman 1989, but it's a full book. It's a novel based on that character, and I'm just going into that book right now. I believe I'm like about halfway through it, so it's just a really good thing to be working on right now that I'm in this subject as it is. So I might be able to get another video in, but if I'm not, I do appreciate you guys taking the time to check this one out. I feel like there are things that it could still keep improving, as this game, ages. Like, I've been able to improve a lot, and I think that some of the combat sequences in this gameplay showcase that. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned, because I might have another one pretty soon coming up. If you want to see that, go ahead and subscribe, and you'll see when I put it up. But for right now, I'll catch you in the next one. All right, take care.